Okay, so the reading I chose for this one was Neoliberalism from Joanna Brockman. And I chose this one because I feel like I hear this term like thrown around a lot, but I don't actually really understand what it was. But basically, what this text was about was that neoliberalism is more than just like liking the free market. It's kind of a system of thinking that tells people the best way to improve society is by giving individual people freedom in the market and then shrinking the role of the government to make it less powerful. So in the text, she writes that neoliberalism refers to a theory of political economic practices that proposes that human well-being can best be advanced by liberating individual entrepreneurial freedoms through free market and free trade. So it's just basically the idea that the government should, back off and then let the market just do its own thing, whether it's about things like healthcare, education, and housing, things like that. So I think an interesting point that she wrote in this was like how our thinking has changed about the way we see ourselves, because we don't just see ourselves as people and citizens with their rights, but as consumers and like spenders and things like that, that we're responsible for fixing our own problems. So I think that was quite surprising for me. So for example, when I was like applying to colleges in last semester, I felt like the entire process wasn't about me showing like my academics or anything. It was more about selling myself, having a personal brand and trying to market my achievements rather than like focusing on my learning or how I've grown over the years. So I didn't really feel like I was a student trying to apply to college. I felt more like a product I was trying to market to these, colleges. So I think like looking then at this text, I definitely feel like this neoliberalism mindset that she describes, where success is about like the individual effort and failure is like a personal flaw, not something shaped by the larger system, like possibly inequality or like lack of access to, things like education and healthcare and things like that. So I think that was interesting, and it's like it made me think that it's like not just a personal experience, it's like an entire cultural shift that's coming in. So neoliberalism basically teaches us that if we're struggling, it's because we didn't work hard enough and not because the entire system is unfair or like not funded well. And I think right now this is like an interesting idea, because I think a lot of people in politics hold this, especially like the Republican Party, where it's like the American dream exists, and if you haven't succeeded in life, it's because you're lazy and you haven't worked hard enough, and maybe not because you haven't had the opportunities. So yeah, like a lot of the people, it's like, well, a lot of low-income working class people, like, like the Hispanic community, who often is like, Trump often badmouths as lazy and then like poor and dangerous criminals. He often talks about them like that, but it's a lot of the time it's because they've immigrated this country and they don't have the same opportunities that maybe more wealthy people would have had because they've started fresh, and it's not simply about they haven't worked hard enough. So I think that was quite interesting to put into perspective. Like talking about neoliberalism, not sure entirely, like, yeah.